Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap the 2024 IBJJF World Championships, talk a little jiu-jitsu news, and preview the 1FC card, Mikey Musumeci versus Gabriel Sosa. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Josh.
How you doing, Josh?
Good.
Good to be here. I'm happy to have you back on. It's been a few weeks.
It's been a minute.
Let's get right into news. Worlds was awesome. We just finished a rewatch of it. It is Sunday night, so the Worlds finished an hour and a half, 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago.
At this point, we are fresh off of open mat to go do the show. So as a result, we previewed EBI the Absolutes last week. That is happening as we are recording the show. So we will recap that this following week because we can't recap it right now because it's happening right now. But we have Worlds, so I'm excited to talk about that. There are a lot of finishes this year at Worlds. Before we get into that, let's talk about news. It's all CJI news. It's all Craig Jones Invitational news because we have more names, we have more purses, we have a lot more information after Craig Jones was on Joe Rogan. If you're interested about that, he gives a lot more detail than I'm going to give here. Essentially, we have Gabby Garcia versus Craig Jones has been announced, and Seth Daniels, the promoter and one of the event organizers for production for ADCC, was like, look, I used to pay Gabby $10,000 or about or more to fight on Fight to Win, and she did a lot of matches with Fight to Win over the years, especially in the early days of Fight to Win. She's making $180,000. Good for her, which is awesome. Gabby Garcia is a 4-time ADCC champion, multiple-time world champion. Get paid. I can't believe we're actually gonna get that match, but
is this the first intergender jiu-jitsu match
at this level
of consequence?
It very
I know
well
it's
might be.
happened before, but
in an adult division at a major tournament.
Not at a major tournament. It's happened at smaller
I'm
tournaments.
saying, have we ever had a major tournament like CJI, a $2 million tournament where we have an intergender match between Craig Jones and Gabby Garcia?
Absolutely not.
So, very interested to see how this one goes. But again, I'm super happy that Garcia is getting paid almost $200,000 to go and do it. Pull out of ADCC to do it. I like my athletes getting paid, and that was kind of Seth's comment of, I like seeing the athletes getting paid. They're getting paid. Even Mo gave some comments this week that were like, look, if it helps push the sport forward, that's always kind of been Mo's, the promoter for ADCC's MO. And he's like, look, if it helps push the sport forward, that's what we are all doing. And so it's there are guys that pull out ADCC, and he kind of laughed. He goes, don't worry, there's plenty of folks that still want to do ADCC. We're not going to have a problem filling in the slots of people that decide to drop out for the money. So speaking of people that dropped out for the money, let's talk about some of the names we have announced. We have JGR, João Gabriel Rocha, big heavyweight, one of the top guys in the world, has been announced for the Craig Jones Invitational.
The above 80 kilograms.
Obviously for João Gabriel Rocha. We have Hulk, Lucas Barbosa, who we are probably not going to talk about his match with AJ Agazarm in pit submission this week. We'll probably touch on that next week because we have all of Worlds to cover. He is announced for that. We have Roberto Jimenez has been announced for CJI. We have Nick Rodriguez has been announced for CJI as well. I thought it was really funny. Him and Nicky Ryan, who was also announced, who was literally announced as I was exporting the show last week. I was like, because why it's exporting, I scroll my phone and I was like, oh, cool. Of course, in traditional Grappling Rewind fashion, we finish the show and then big news comes out. So Nicky Rod and Nicky Ryan did a nice little video that was basically it's a lot of money. I'm torn. I'm kind of he said, Nicky Rod went, I'm in a pickle. But it's a lot of money. It's $1 million. $1 million buys me really nice pool. Really nice. I basically went through essentially that it would be life-changing money. And Nicky Ryan went, there's some ADCC champions now that I make more money than. It's it's awesome. The prestige is great, but $1 million is a lot of money that I can really change my life with. That's what the tactics have emulated. That's what most of the guys are going. And that's, I think, partially why Seth and Mo, public at least, aren't that mad. They're like, look, it's a lot of money. It's not unreasonable for you to go and chase a giant purse, and so make your money. For the sport, get eyes on the sport. But I think him and Nicky Ryan's comments were just really good and it was a very professional way to put it. Hey, man, it's a lot of money. I'm not happy to be dropping out of the other tournament, but it's like $1 million. And I think I can win $1 million. There's not a lot of guys on the planet that would go, well, I'm going to pass that opportunity up, especially if you get that invite. We've seen more fake invites this week, and it has been hilarious. Everyone is photoshopping them, like the knee bar guy, a bunch of people into CJI posters. It has been amazing to watch. Also announced, I think we talked about it last week, but I don't know. Mason Fowler is announced now for Craig Jones Invitational, as well as Joseph Chen. We talked about it last week. We were like, I'm guessing most of the B team guys will go. Ethan Kronstein has not been announced for it yet. None of the New Wave guys have been announced for it yet. Big shout out to Lil T Ride in the YouTube comments for finally telling me how to pronounce Big Dan's last name.
Manasoyu.
And Josh corrected me again, so I appreciate that. Again, if you ever have name corrections for us, very much appreciate them. Shoot them to us via DM or in a YouTube comment. I read all of those, and it helps us be better at the thing that we do here on Grappling Rewind and like highlight the athletes. I want to get guys' names correct on the show, and so if I've been butchering them, like I call him Big Dan most of the time, but
so does everybody else.
But I appreciate the corrections as always, and also big shout out to the Reply Crew on YouTube. People that put like Reply Crew, I love it. It just brings me a huge amount of joy to see that pop up in the YouTube notifications. Like, Reply Crew guy. So appreciate that. If you like the show, please do share it with the people at your gym, or if you want to get someone into professional grappling. The World Championships like this week are a really great way to like give them an on-ramp. Josh and I are going to recap all of the finals and talk about like all the finishes and some big names to note and to watch. So share with someone at the gym that you want to watch grappling with, or you want to get more involved in the professional scene as we ramp up from the World Championships into the ADCC World Championships and the Craig Jones Invitational. We're going to keep doing it. So in other news, we also have Craig hinted during his Joe Rogan Experience podcast that we may get Marcelo Garcia coming back for this as well.
It'd be interesting to see who we would get him to go against.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of legends match. You kind of wonder of like, well, who would you put Marcelo against at this point?
I don't know.
I'm going to watch him against anyone.
Interesting. Like, what are they going to do? It'd be like, hey, let's do another Pablo Popovich match. Like,
I haven't been. So every year, I look for Pablo Popovich. He is off the face of the earth. You can't find anything about him since like 13. He's just gone. It's kind of crazy.
Who knows? But like,
give Rico Rodriguez, man, run it back. ADCC absolute.
Let's not and say we did.
Get one of the Mendez brothers. They've been retired for a jump.
No, I think the age differential is just like a big factor too.
Again, I love legends. Make it Barry Yoshida. I'll watch a Barry Yoshida match versus Marcelo Garcia. Not quite the same size, but like Yoshida will be down for it. He'll be like,
for sure,
I'm down for it. So I'm excited about that. Potentially, and there's other comments, mainly on Reddit. They were like, could be Eddie Bravo. He was talking about a Mexican guy with a Mexican name. I was like, not.
Eddie
Josh
Bravo
was like, not the same.
A Mexican sounding name at all.
No. But so there's other people that Craig is bringing in. Again, we also have Theon Davies announced for that. I assume the names will continue to be as crazy as they've been. Again, it's a small tournament. It's only a 32-person tournament over 80 and above 80 kilos. So
super fights, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's other super fights to be announced. It'll be very interesting to be in Vegas while this is going on, and it's free on YouTube. So free on YouTube means it will be free on my phone for day 2 when we're at ADCC day 1. Watching both events and like yelling, screaming. I am looking forward to it, but I am very much not looking forward to trying to recap the Craig Jones Invitational while we recap ADCC. Like, I have logistically absolutely no idea how we are going to do that this weekend.
Day 1 will be easy because it's not interfering.
It's Friday, but like day 2 will be finals for CJI and day 1 for ADCC, and then Sunday will be ADCC finals. It's like, I have logistically, we're already exhausted anyway.
You run through the finals of CJI. You talk about that stuff, how they go on. And then
notable things from day 1.
Yeah,
but usually it's already been like an 18-hour day for us. So it'll be interesting.
Look, have your power packs with you plugged into your phone and just let it cycle through a whole bunch of times.
So it will be fun. I don't think I have any other news this week. In the preview, we'll talk about Kade making his MMA debut. And then Mikey versus Gabriel Sosa. That's going to be a rematch from the Who's Number One match they had a couple of years ago where Sosa won via choke over Mikey Musumeci. We'll break that down here at the end of the show if we have time. But let's get into it, Josh. No other news. Let's move on to the World Championship Finals. Is this a large enough font for you to see?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's start with my people, Josh. It's not quite my people, but like the weight class
Slightly
below my people.
2 weight classes.
Maybe nowadays, yeah.
No, because featherweight is yours, and then there's light feather, and then
I think I could be light feather. I've made light feather before. I wasn't happy about it, but I could make it again. My wife would not be happy about it. She wasn't happy the first time. So this was a phenomenal match. We had a men's roosterweight final match between Babito Oliveira and Zaid Alcathiri. They say his name. Jake Watson on broadcast says it way better than me.
Alcathiri.
I love hearing Watson on broadcast. That dude always brings a great energy.
Alka, like Alka-Seltzer.
Uh-huh.
And then Theory.
Alcathiri. Zaid Alcathiri.
There you go.
This was phenomenal. I love Josh. So Josh watched it, and I rewatched it, and Josh was like, wait for it. And there was a finishing sequence here that was so
it's glorious.
We went frame by framed it, and it was still like I wanted 60 frames a second. I wanted more. I wanted better lighting, but that's always IBJJF, so that's the norm.
Yeah, I mean, think about like rooster weights, and you see a lot of movement a lot of times. You don't see a lot of finishes in the finals.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
You see a lot of like the traditional 50-50, really, really heavy stack passing, and a lot of times not a lot of passing or positional changes. This match was not like that. It had elements of a traditional rooster weight, the double butt sit, and they're fighting for the hands and the feet. And then it got wild. Even the match at the beginning started out and got wild. We had Babito almost finish a mirror lock on Zaid early in the match.
He stayed down. Zaid was like, I guess I'll come up, which I watched during some of the Purple Belt matches. They got like super close to getting double DQ'd for guard pulls. But he starts like climbing, and it's
like up into the guard essentially.
Yeah, it's something that Babito always does, and he just overhooks like a mirror lock and then climbs his leg over and will armbar you from there. And that started, and it did not look comfortable. And Maine was yelling at the TV, like, "Oh, mirror lock! He's gonna finish it." And I'm like,
"He's gonna mirror lock him.
He's
gonna mirror lock him.
Don't worry." But again, they were going after each other. You got like the little back and forths from like
double seated open guard.
Yeah, where somebody would come up and get a sweep, and then it would change. You had Alcathiri almost like getting close to a pass at a certain point, and coming through, and then the finishing sequence, like the last 20 or 30 seconds.
The last like 30 seconds of the match are all like an interesting positional change. Essentially, go and find this finishing sequence. It is absolutely worth your time to just go and watch. It's like a really cool. It is a la Kade Ruotolo in 1FC switching under for his last finish.
Sort of, but like Babito tries to come up and like get into mount. That gets countered.
Well, no, it comes off initially off of a sweep, off of a wrestle up.
But that's the second part of it. But then he comes up off of a wrestle up and starts to go, and Alcathiri goes for a Kimura across the body from like just like a cross body ride.
Yeah.
And he starts to come up into mount. And we left out the octopus guard part. There's like 17 different parts.
There were like a bunch of sequences that happened all at once.
Seconds.
But the neatest thing for me in this sequence was at a certain point, Babito is in the bottom position and is sort of looking for a hip bump. And Zaid goes to counter this with a Kimura. And like the standard Kimura you do where you kind of like jump over. And Babito is able to shoot his arm above Zaid's head and then turns this into a mount take, essentially from kind of a half wrestle up bottom position, and then
gets to the back
in position.
Zaid turns.
He's able to keep the back there to get it, and then finishes a modified choke from the back.
Yeah, cross collar from the back.
It was just such a wild finishing, which we were like, oh, to have the dexterity, the thought process, and the ability to counter in like a multi-step sequence like that is just wild to watch. Not even in real time, because in real time you kind of miss. You're like, what, did he really just do that? In slow motion, you can watch all of like, okay, he clears the Kimura by putting his hand up. He then comes over. He then changes his leg where he's no longer on the half guard. He then climbs to mount there. Then Zaid, you see him realize the Kimura is gone, realize he's going to get mounted, turn to try to shuck off the mount. But Bito counters that to get to the... It's just this beautiful like display of not sequential jiu-jitsu of just like, oh, this is the meta of the counter to the thing that you are going to do here, and then it ends in Babito just like you said, hammering in this choke and getting the finish in a match that he was like pretty clearly in the driver's seat for a good portion of, but it was definitely Zaid had moments in it, but it was my favorite match, my favorite finishing sequence of the Worlds this year was this. It was just awesome. Wild sequence, and usually we give some shit to the Rooster Weights because a lot of times it can be a very, both men and women, because it can be a very stylistic meta match where you don't see a lot of these really exciting sequences in the finals. In the earlier matches in Rooster Weight, you see a lot of this, but in the finals, sometimes you don't see this. It's awesome to see this showcase in the finals from Babito, and it's great. Oh, they have this flipped.
No, they don't. They just have his name highlighted.
Yeah, they usually highlight the winner. BJJ Heroes usually highlights the winner.
Look, they have a bunch of people if they have
they have a page.
Yeah,
they have a page. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great match. Go back and if you watch one match from Worlds, honestly, that's the sequence you should watch. Is watch the initial sequence here in the first minute of the match, and then watch the finish because it is a wild finish, very much like one of those. In the moment, you would never, if you weren't at this level, you would never just organically get that. But these guys at this level, this is the best way to showcase. Like, yeah, this is what it takes to be a world champion. So that was the Roosterweight finals. Not saying it's only downhill from here, but it gets back into regular jiu-jitsu. Back into regular jiu-jitsu from here. In the finals of the men's light featherweight.
Light featherweight.
Oh, I have the screen so big I'm confused. The light feather division.
Pato.
We had Diego Pato Oliveira defeating Jonas Andrade.
Jonas.
Yeah, man.
Bro, you need some glasses.
Whenever you're on the show, my brain just takes 7 years of you being on the show and just goes. But like you and Miranda both know how I work now. It just like my brain just leaves with the names. Yeah, Jonas Andrade.
This was also a quick one. Pato's
so fucking good.
It just was like, so here, good. We're going to just go underneath. I'm going to crab ride you, and I'm going to take your back, and then we're just going to hang out, and I'm just going to smash your face.
Dude, they had a close-up of the collar grip on Jonas Andrade.
And it was just like...
Andrade has no mouth guard in, and he's doing great defense, which is if you have someone that's trying to collar choke you, and the collar is over top of your chin... You open your chin to block your neck so they can't slide it under. But you see Pato just like full force just ripping this across. And Andrade is going, and trying to open his mouth to get there.
Yeah, he switches to a certain point at Ezekiel and then goes back to it and gets that like old traditional finish from it.
It's like it's like Ezekiel from the back.
But no, he didn't Ezekiel him. He started to, but then he couldn't really finish it and he transitioned.
Oh, he did transition.
Over.
You're right. Yeah. It was a really great sequence. Again, we know Pato is so good, and this just hammers home just how good
it was great.
Pato is. Like the crab ride from the back, the way that he does that, it's just so smooth. He's already a step ahead of Jonas, and then it's just the Pato show all in all. The match is a couple minutes.
2-3 minutes, something like that.
Very,
not very long.
Very impressive work from Diego. Dude, who do you put him against at this point? I want to see the Baby Shark rematch, but even that match on Who's Number One in Nogi, he was kind of beating Baby Shark before the finish. He just beat Dante Leon. Like, I need to go through his record and see like who have you lost to in the last couple of years that I want to see a rematch for.
You can click on it really quick.
No, we've come too far, Josh. So moving on to the men's featherweight, because again we're in Worlds. This show will be 3.5 hours if we do it like this.
I'm aware. All your favorite people at featherweights lost.
Kind of.
Let's be real here.
A little bit.
Diego Sodre beat Fabricio Andre.
Yeah.
Miriam Makine beat Isaac Doderlin.
Yeah.
You know, Alex Sodre beat Kennedy Maciel.
Yeah.
Like it was
a
fairly
bloodbath
wild.
for guys you like.
But the Sodre brothers ended up losing in the semis. And that gave us Miriam Makine versus Ademir Bajeto.
This was fun. This was a fun one.
And if you were watching or if you were not aware, Miriam also did the absolute as a featherweight. And
Which is uncommon.
Made it to the semifinals.
Which is really uncommon.
Like, he lost to Jansen Gomez,
who was in the finals and then couldn't do the final. We'll talk about that in a minute here.
We'll get to it.
But he beat
Roberto Jimenez. Yeah.
He's very good. It was unsurprising with that absolute run to see him here in the finals and see him win by a choke.
He's a dog too, man. He was on it. And like, it gets later into the match, but he's just like, all right, cool. Sweep. Let's start moving. Let's get these different positions. He eventually starts to pass, and that becomes the downhill for Ademir, where it's just like, uh-oh, this is bad. He jumps up and gets the back.
He really does it an interesting way. He settles. I think it's this match again. We just watched. The Worlds is always a crazy time because it's really
hours.
It's a 4.5 hour event that we watch directly before we do this show, and
Maine tries to do it on Monday.
We can't.
So it gives him time.
Yeah,
to
but we do have to do it
digest.
on Sunday. It's always just like a crazy blur of whose collar choke was that? Especially when there are this many finishes in the finals.
And that's
it's
an awesome
matches.
thing too, is that there were a lot of finishes in the finals.
I think this is the match where Miriam exposed the back. He did a really, really great job of, as he was turning the angle and Amir was trying to roll back into the guard, he blocks the outside hip from rolling over with his forehand, which is good. He also uses like his head and chin on the top side of the glutes to prevent Ademir from being able to roll through. And then once he's able to get around, he punches the close side lapel to him, the top side of the lapel, all the way down to force Barreto to stay on his side so that he can initiate the back sequence. I think that was this match.
I believe so. And then
one of the finals match that happened.
It's the same thing with the old school finish where he reaches across and just whoosh, that's that arm popped
up. The Japanese style finish with the arm up. We just went over that I think a week or two ago at the gym, which is cool. I was like, oh, look at that. And it came back and I finished it. And I was like, that's fun to do. It was a great finish. Miriam McQueen is just so good. And again, I haven't got a chance. You watched his absolute run. I haven't got a chance to see it yet.
As a featherweight, it's like super impressive because you very rarely see guys below like middleweight in that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Mika starts doing the absolutes now that he's gotten like his whole thing.
Yeah.
Technically, it's his first world championship.
We bullshitting. Technically, we do a sport where they test like 3 times.
Right. So technically, he failed it and lost his world championship.
Technically, 2-time world champion. Let's talk about his match.
Now he's a world champion.
He's got to pass. He's gonna pass the test still.
Oh, sorry.
He's still got to pass the test.
Yeah.
So until
that might take 6 more months.
I hope. So let's talk about the male lightweight division. We had a runback of a rematch. Mika Gaval versus Andy Murasaki. We've seen these two guys go against each other.
This one is a closer one though than they have been recently.
Well, so the last time we talked about these guys meeting, this was when Mika just basically arm dragged to Murasaki's back and got him. Their previous match, Murasaki was up on points, and Mika had to come from behind the guard to get the armbar late in the match. Because I misremembered that too when we were watching this.
I think they competed against each other at Europeans too.
I think so. I mean, they've run it back a couple of times. Mika typically is the one that gets the win, but this match was really, really close. This was 2-2, so 2-2, and then Mika winning on advantages.
Because of the near back taking the submission attempt with a guillotine.
Yeah. Really, really good guillotine attempt, too. It was like nice and deep. It looked like Murasaki was doing a really good job of defending that guillotine attempt.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look like Mika from the position that he was in, and even when he adjusted to sort of that top kind of half guard mounted position, he just wasn't in the right angle to be able to put his chest up and like flare his arms to get Andy Murasaki there. And because he was so low on Murasaki's hips, he wouldn't be able to jump up to get high enough to like finish the guillotine. But it was great defensive work from Murasaki.
Yes, and that was kind of like that was the main action of this match. You have Galvao trying to pass and trying to go through, and Murasaki like almost getting his back taken and then turning and coming up and getting the 2 for that.
That was a weird. So that's actually a really interesting piece to kind of bring up. Is I've been watching so much ADCC recently. I watched it. I was like, oh, that does score an IBJJF. There's a couple coming back into the world for IBJJF. There's a couple of things, and we can talk about like
we've been talking about
DQ,
rules and stuff like that.
Where in this match particularly, you can see, oh, right, in IBJJF, that scores. Like the turtling, like going to turtle and covering the back hip of the turtle, that scores in IBJJF. There's a bunch of things that score advantages and points in IBJJF that do not score in other organizations, and it's the Worlds is always a good time for us to kind of refresh that and remember those things. But this match has one of those moments where it's like, oh yeah, that actually would be, because he wasn't fully on his back, it would be a sweep in that position. So very close. But really, although the score is close, this really seemed like Galvao was in the driver's seat the majority of the match. Had it been even, I think he would have pretty clearly won a decision. And he's in it, not taking anything away from Murasaki, but very much Galvao in the driver's seat, and Murasaki doing some great defensive work, doing some great kind of counter offense work here. But Mika Galvao in control of the match, almost bell to bell, with some great submission attempts, a really good guillotine attempt that Murasaki had to work out of. Very fun match. Again, I really hope that he keeps the title this time. I really like Mika Galvao. Like, I really like his style, like his game. I like that he has gi and no gi.
I'm interested to see what he does now. Does he stay committed to ADCC? Does he do CJI? That's another thing. Fabricio Andre said that he was committed to ADCC, that he was not going to do
a couple guys are also giving their commitments public. I forgot Fabricio did that as well. I think Fabricio's done that, and a couple of other folks have done that. We can assume all the New Wave guys have probably done that. I'm
assuming.
Yeah.
But you never know.
No. But yeah, so I forgot about that. Fabricio announced he's ADCC. Like, we're still kind of wondering, a lot of those top guys, like anyone that is in the in ADCC in these world finals right now, they're on that level of like, I am curious where they're gonna stay. So
yeah, we'll see how it goes in the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a really fun match. Moving on to the male middleweight division, we had this one. We had Jackson Nagay defeating Francisco Lowe. It's listed in BJ Heroes as violent arm lock. Really, what it was,
he got kicked in the knee.
He kicked his knee out.
He got kicked in the knee. But here's the thing, like,
Francisco Lowe did not make a lot of fans this weekend. So
especially from the Mendez brothers, and they had like a whole breakdown of it. They showed a few times of him doing the same thing.
So they
showed the slow-mo of Tynan versus Francisco.
One thing I did appreciate, though, is at no point in those posts did they say that Tynan shouldn't have got DQ'd, which I did appreciate. So what happened?
Their enforcement of that rule,
while
it happened on 3 separate occasions,
it's happened for a year.
It's been in there for a little bit. But the thing with that is,
so what happened? Let's break down what happened.
You got to do that, and
So what happened is rule, and a bunch of people are saying it's rule 18 in IBJJF. It's foul 19. If you go back and look at the IBJJF rulebook version 5.2 that came out in 2020, Josh, this is my life. I love this shit. I had a great time. I had to pull the Grapple Arts versions. I couldn't pull the most recent version, but in the version I pulled, which is version 5.2 of the IBJJF rulebook, effective
5.47
in 2021, it is a legal technique, picture 19. It also has picture 23 on it too, but picture 19 is specifically the exact thing that Tynan Doubtborough gets DQ'd for. And if you watch a lot of the AOJ guys, which we do because we're big fans of jiu-jitsu, essentially it's a conundrum where you go backside 50-50.
Nope.
Okay, break it down, Josh. Break it down for the fans. You De La Hiva.
You underhook the De La Hiva.
Yes. And
you shove. No, it doesn't twist. You shove your leg through, and it forces them to turn.
Yeah. Or if they don't turn, it gives you the Berimbolo. Essentially is what it gives you.
But the thing is, you'll start to hike it up and bring it across. And the way to escape that, the easiest way to prevent anything happening to you, is to just do a back step. But the thing is, nobody wants to give up that position. They don't want to hit their butt, right?
Because you get swept or you get your back taken.
More than likely, you'll end up in that position if you backstep. You end up in like a bad reaping position or like a 50-50 position.
Yeah.
The thing with that is like...
This is something that all the AOG kid, like everyone at AOJ,
So many people do it.
this.
And it's funny, and I just remembered it today. Like at the DC Open, the first DC Open that they did, I did this exact move, and Fernando Yamasaki was screaming at the ref to DQ me because I was doing it. But the thing was, like, apparently to get DQ'd, you have to have that gable grip or like locking
You have to
your
connect
hands
your
to
hands
pull
in
it
some
across.
way. And it's not super clear.
I don't do it that way. When I do that, I normally just
You do it one
hike up the underhook, and then I will
You don't
quickly...
close the loop on the leg is what it is.
I don't. I also quickly switch from the De La Hiva hook to the outside and try to do a calf slicer from there. And they were trying to say that that was illegal. And fortunately, the ref was just like, it just ignored them and was like, no, it's fine. But yeah, no, because was it Mateus Luna got DQ'd for that? And somebody
A bunch
else?
of guys died. I think
and
Luna got
else-
DQ'd for it in an earlier match, and then
It was in the absolute.
yeah,
And somebody else got
in
DQ'd.
the weight class also got DQ'd.
But there's also a bunch of videos where people were doing it and not getting called for it.
It has been something that we have seen happen and not get DQ'd for a lot recently. But so what happens is Francisco Lowe knows the rules, and as soon as Tynan goes to do it, he does
He flopped.
He does a soccer fall,
He
and he goes
flopped.
and he like freaks out about it, and
He also, in the beginning of the match, got poked in the eye.
yeah, and they showed that too. The Mendes brothers showed that too. So, but again, it is an illegal move.
Yeah, it's illegal, so it is what it is. But
Tynan gets DQ'd. So in here, Jackson the guy kicks Francisco Lowe's knee out in like in a guard pull that really is like a.
the knee stomp.
It should be illegal in the way that Jackson the guy did it because you're targeting the knee.
I had a purple belt do it to me Friday,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, we're playing street rules? Like, damn."
Because you can blow the guy's knee out, and that's kind of what it looks like happens to Francisco Lowe, and then Jackson the guy falls down, he gets the violent arm lock, but if you look at the side angle that is the broadcast angle, you can see that Francisco Lowe is tapping as soon as he gets hit, and he falls, and he goes, and you can see
He
him.
gets hit, and
his
his
face
head
just
and
winks.
arm get trapped in like the triangle type position, and he's already tapping.
Yeah.
And then he gets arm barred and taps more.
Yeah. But it was one of those like,
I'm pretty sure a lot of the AOJ crowd was like super stoked that happened. It's a bummer that he's hurt.
yeah, he's fun to watch. He has a fun game, but it was one of those like, it was rough to.
Yeah.
It was it's definitely a way to get that far. It's definitely polarized people, and it happened a couple hours ago essentially.
What was it?
So we're just kind of intaking what everyone's thoughts and feelings are about it. It sucks to see an athlete get hurt though.
Yeah, I think it was Jake Watson. It might have been
On commentary.
on commentary.
Yeah, it was Jake Watson.
And he was like, Francisco Lowe's tumultuous rise to the finals, and I was like, damn.
Look, I like Watson on commentary. I'm happy that he's getting way more commentary gigs because that dude has a great energy to the finals, and he's knowledgeable. Like he was a competitive black belt on that level for a couple of years, and it's been awesome to hear him he brings a fun energy to the broadcast that I think has been lacking for a lot of years, where he will get excited, but he will also stay on topic, and it's great.
Was he on the Fight Pass Invitational? He was just on something recently.
Was that a PGF?
No. After that, it was.
He does
more
ADCC
recent.
commentary a lot. He does the trials commentary.
Somebody else too. I'll remember.
Yeah,
that.
but he's great, and
another time.
I love that Flo is like hiring him, and IBJJF has him out because like it's consistently just really good commentary, and he's one of the few guys that I don't like have the urge to ever mute. I'm always happy to hear Watson talk. So shout out to that guy. Also has a podcast, another podcaster, Open Guardcast. So let's talk about the
medium
heavy finals. Gustavo Batista versus Jansen Gomez.
Not very long.
Broke that shit off.
Gustavo Batista defeated Jansen Gomez via straight ankle lock.
But the fun thing about this match, Josh, is he went the way that you couldn't go last year.
For years.
You
can't roll that one way.
You can't roll
because you'll break somebody's leg.
Because that's exactly what happened. So what happened is the finishing sequence that happens here is Gustavo Batista grabs an ankle lock, and then Jansen Gomez techs up in that position.
Starts to come up, and he gets baited.
And historically, you've never been able to fall for these guys. Black
you have
belt
to
career,
fall to the bottom.
you have to fall to the outside of the hip line. And last year, they changed the rule. You can now fall to the inside of the hip line. And Jansen Gomez defends this like exactly how you would normally if you can't fall to the inside. And Gustavo Batista goes, cool, bro, inside footlock. And
he rolled and immediately bellied down.
As hard as he possibly could.
Jansen tapped quick, started limping. I'm assuming something is really messed up, if not broken.
Because Gustavo Batista is a beast of a human. Has just a super strong.
He is a keg of a man.
He is a keg of a man. Yeah, and but it was cool. Again, like I said in the Francisco Lowe match, I never like to see athletes get hurt, but I do appreciate when we see a technique that was previously illegal become legal and we see it used at the highest levels. Like I appreciate one of the things I love about jiu-jitsu is that generally speaking, there's not a lot of stuff you can't do. And I like the openness of the sport. And so IBJJF adding heel hook
in the gi.
Give it time. I have a heel hook one in the gi. You have a heel hook one in the gi.
I do.
We both do, Josh.
Yes, yeah.
It's free rules, baby. And I like that we're seeing new techniques and new things crop up. This is, again, I don't think Jansen Gomez will get hit with a footlock like this again because he will change his technique. His gym will change the technique for how they defend this grip. And Gustavo Batista has now put a terror upon our sport because a lot of people, I think, are going to be looking for this footlock to fall in because when the person techs up and out, like Jansen Gomez did, you can fall to the inside and put a tremendous amount of force into their knee and into the foot. And it's a great footlocking opportunity. And Nogi guys have been knowing this for a long time, but it is nice to see the technique crop back up in the gi. And just an additional level of defense that is required from the athletes. Again, sucks to see Jansen Gomez get injured. He's fun to watch, but I love seeing new legal techniques be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on that, Josh?
Nope.
Male heavyweight division. Talk about
my favorite thing.
Yes.
Like it's the best thing ever.
God, it's so
Finally.
Always
the bridesmaid, never the bride, and here he comes, oh so pretty. Adam Wardzinski defeating Vinicius Liberate via. I knew you were gonna forget about it. How did he finish? Come on, you got really stoked about it.
I got really stoked about it.
Head and arm choke.
Oh, from the mount. Yeah. Okay, so BJJ here is what we're using for the notes here because Miranda is out this week and usually
has a bunch of notes.
Has a bunch of
great
notes. BJJ Heroes does not have the result here, and Josh knew I was gonna forget.
So again, behind the curtains thing, stuff that we've worked, how we operated when it was just Maine and I for the longest time was Maine took notes. I never do, and I have pretty good ability to recall.
You have a weird ability, like a weird savant-like ability to recall just that was the semifinals of 2008 in this division with this guy. That was your, like, why do you know that? Like, you can do that.
I'm really good at Trivial Pursuit.
Like Simon can name UFC locations, event dates, and names from like UFC 1 to like UFC like 200 and something.
UFC 1 was in Colorado. I do know that.
But if you ask Simon, who's also on Grappling Rewind, the non-sequitur here, we'll be done in a second. Like, oh yeah, UFC, 170, 132. He'll be like, oh, that was this main event, this co-main event in this location in August of this year. And I've done it for years, consistently can do it. It is the wildest thing. So that is what you are like with Worlds matches and matches that you see once while driving.
Yeah. But Wardzinski also had a 100% submission rate. He submitted everybody on his way to the finals.
So some history with Adam Wardzinski. He's like my favorite guy. BJJ Scout did a video breakdown of his.
You can still find it on YouTube.
Yeah, it was hard to find for a little bit, but it's back now. Of his game, and because Wardzinski at purple and at brown, and then into his early black belt career, he was like the only guy that played a straight up butterfly guard game, like old school Marcelo, but like with very little modifications. He would force you into butterfly guard and he would sweep you. And he is the best in the world as a current competitor at that. But the problem is he would always get to like the semis or the finals. He would always get so close. And then he'd run into someone that just kind of knew how to deal with the specific game that Wardzinski had and could never beat there. And we have been At Worlds.
Because he's got a
multi-time
Pan
European championship.
He's got a European championship. All of those things.
Sorry, at Worlds.
He's always come up a little short at Worlds, which has always been a bummer. Love it.
Because I play a huge butterfly guard game, and he's been a huge inspiration. I've watched so much Wardzinski footage to improve my game. He's like my modern competitor guy, very different attributes, but very technical, big guy that plays a game that I really try to emulate.
His half butterfly is something that I use a lot.
It's amazing. It's on display here, but when we were training tonight, Josh, we had just watched this match, and Josh is yelling. I'm in this position, and Josh is yelling at me to do exactly what Wardzinski did in this match, which is
Vinicius actually pulled guard, which I think is a great strategy against Wardzinski.
Oh,
because if you let him work, he gets going.
He's a momentum guy. Like once he starts going, like stopping that train is really hard. Like go back and watch his match with Felipe Andrew, where he comes from behind there.
He thrives off of that, though. I think like being on, like even if he gets swept, like being on the bottom, he's like, all right, it's like time to get those points back and then try to advance. And he was trying to pass originally, and he got swept essentially. He got stood up with a single leg and put on his butt, but then he immediately did the same exact thing back to him, where he just stood up.
Well, the initial takedown was good. He gets him down on the initial takedown off the single leg because he drops.
No, that's the sequence after he got swept.
Oh,
so
you're right.
He
Yeah,
got
my
swept.
bad.
He comes up, pulls up the single leg. As he's doing the single leg, he's actually kicking the leg out to put him on his butt.
Right at the ankle.
Right at the ankle.
Beautiful how to do it. My wife does it a very similar way, but she just collar drags you down all the way, just drops underneath you.
And then it goes back to that same position where he's trying to pass again, can't get it, gets back up again and put back on his butt. And from there, then we're in Wardzinski's world, where
enjoy the butterfly guard game of Adam Wardzinski. You're in it now.
You see like his arm just clamp over and grab the belt,
which is the belt grip for Wardzinski is like it was very
money.
Few guys in the world can stop this.
It was beautiful, and he starts working up, and you hear it on commentary, and it's like having that belt helps Adam keep the knee down. But then Vinicius stands up, and he was like, "Oh, that might be a problem." But Adam doesn't give a shit, and he started elevating with the feet, elevating, and tipped and turned over for the sweep and landed right in mount.
Which is such a great position. It's one of the biggest scoring positions you can have in jiu-jitsu and IBJJF.
It's a 6-point swing.
Yeah, 2 points for the sweep, 4 points for the mount, and you end up in a really good, like not like a low mount position where you have to slide up. You end up in a middle to high mount position, and this is Wardzinski's A game. He's just hit you with his A game sweep. He's in a high mount now, and you see him just go cool. And Wardzinski is incredibly strong. He's much larger than you think he is, and he's incredibly strong. And you can see him just go like, cool, these arms are staying up. And he just like kind of grabs.
He worked it up, tucked his head in, snuck underneath, and started squeezing. And I was like, oh, this might be a fight. And he like locked up the arms, and I was like, oh, wait, nope, never mind. Dude. And he finished him. And it
was just such a great
awesome
finish. It's great to see Wardzinski get one.
On the broadcast, they said the first European world champion. I don't think that's correct.
Men's world champion?
Maybe men's world champion, but I believe Domenico Balint is European as well.
Is she South African? Is she European?
No.
Domenico Balint. Yeah.
She's like, I want to say she's like Latvian or something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the flag because my wife did a seminar with her my wife did a seminar probably 5 or 6 years ago with her, and I pulled her records. I was curious. We hadn't talked about her in a bit, and I was just curious about who she was doing the seminar with, and I remember looking at the flag and going, oh, neat.
Right, but
first male European
champion. Might be the
champion.
first male European champion.
Yeah. Again, most of them are like Brazil and U.S. There's not. You look at the Wikipedia record for like all the champions of IBJJF since '96, which is when the world started. There's a whole lot of 2 flags on that, and a lot of 1 flag on that.
A lot of 1 flag.
A lot of 1 flag.
A couple sprinklings of another, and so
Yeah.
let's add another flag to that one with
It's awesome.
the Polish powerhouse
With a
Adam
dude that plays a
Wardzinski.
cool game. I love his game.
that
So
dude.
it's awesome to see Wardzinski finally get one. He's been looking better and better. He was a guy for years, like internally, that we talked about. Like, man, I really hope that like one day he gets over that like little hump to get there, because
Hey, he's a world champion now. He doesn't have to pay for the tournaments anymore.
oh, good for him. I get to see even more out of Wardzinski. Hell yeah. So that's awesome. Let's move on. Anything else on Wardzinski?
No, he's
Love
awesome.
that dude. Moving on to the male super heavyweight division, we had a final of brothers, but not
I like in the
BJ Heroes.
parentheses. It's
Friendly match between brothers and teammates. Anderson Muniz defeats Eric Muniz via knee bar. So Josh watched this match before me, and he was like, again, this is no shade to any of the competitors. These guys are both, you're in the world finals. It's your brother. Not every match has to be like Kade and Ty, where they're trying to kill each other. The match was definitely a slower pace than both guys. Not slower pace than the work. It was like
It was
more
a work.
flowy. Yeah.
There were definite positions where you were like, they let that happen, and I'm not mad at it. Like,
No.
cool. They weren't gonna let them close out. So
Well, because
cool.
they lose the money if they close out,
right,
and they lose
so
the points as well for their team.
I think so.
And they both lose the points in their same team, so it's actually a lot of points that they would lose.
Right, you get
and so
the
they
first
had the
and
match.
second place for those points. It was cool just seeing them go back and forth.
Yeah, it was a fun, technical,
It was a
neat
cool,
match.
like, you'd get a sweep. Okay, the other person swept back. You get a sweep. The other person
And there were some
sweeps
areas
back.
where they were fighting really hard for it, and then there were a couple areas like
Maybe.
the knee bar at the end.
The knee bar at the end could have been escaped 100%.
It was the knee was in an interesting spot. And
Yeah.
there's another camera, it's pretty tight, but it also looks like that Eric Muniz's knee is essentially almost clear. It's pulled back and it's tight.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have other stuff in play that he didn't go for the toe hold on the outside. He didn't open the knee. He didn't do a couple of things that normally we would have seen him do if he were to be caught in the knee. And again, they're brothers.
And
They may
again,
know each other's
if-
game in a
if
weird
you've
way.
if you've got a guy typing up friendly match between brothers and teammates, people saw it too. And it wasn't like they weren't dogging it. Maybe they were going 50%. Who knows? But good for them. It was a cool little match.
It was
to
a fun
watch.
match.
You can see like both of them have somewhat similar games.
Mm-hmm.
They're super flexible. They do a lot of fun stuff. They're cool to watch, and it is a good match to watch. It doesn't go the length because you get a submission.
Yeah. It was fun, but it was definitely an interesting match in the finals for the Worlds. Male ultra heavy. Anything else on that? I was like, cut you off. Male ultra heavyweight. We had a semifinal match between Jan Bueno and
Yatan Bueno.
Yatan
and
Bueno and
Pedro Alex.
Yeah, my bad. I was looking at the semifinals match. This was Jan just sort of taking a
Yatan
takedown
gets a takedown. It's a lot of battling.
in the half guard and
It didn't pop up, and maybe I missed it, but they had said that Yatan got a penalty, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, it popped up at the bottom there. He got a penalty for shit. It was inactivity, I think is what it was, because they spent a long time in the half guard.
Yeah, he eventually does get past and get it. Did Pedro? Either way,
It was a very
slower
slow-paced
pace match. They wanted to keep it locked down. He gets past. At one point, somebody in the crowd is yelling something about submitting him, and Pedro Alex literally escapes and then wags his finger at the crowd. It's cool. You got a little bit of clashing of heads. Pedro Alex is huge. He gets down on his knees to get his head wrapped, and the guys wrapping his head are almost the same height when he's down on a knee.
Yeah, kind of puts in
He's a big
perspective
dude.
just how big the ultra heavyweights are.
But it's a cool match to watch.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Oh, that's who he lost to. Okay, sorry, I jumped ahead and started
Yeah,
looking
I gotta keep it in order for you because you'll get excited and move ahead.
Yeah.
So funny thing we also noticed in the medal ceremony for this is that Saif The guy that had a match with Mikey Musumeci a couple years ago,
The really big guy.
really big guy in this division. He got DQ'd in his earlier match versus Yatan, and he was podiumed for 4th, which is really interesting because they might have changed the rule. They had to have changed the rule. Typically, in previous years, if you are disqualified in a medal round, you are disqualified from medal contention. So if you ever see where someone's like missing, there's only one third place guy, a lot of times that's because there was a disqualification in the semis or something else, but a lot of times it's because there was a DQ and that person is ineligible for medaling. They might have obviously changed that because Seif was DQ'd for grabbing the belt,
weird.
But also received a medal. So it was a third place medal. So it was just an interesting wrinkle that I don't recall seeing before, but it happened for this Worlds. So let's talk about the openweight final. Once again,
it didn't happen.
Eric Muniz wins because Jansen's foot's broken. I think in the last 10 years, at least since we've been running the show, I think we have only had 3 actual world finals in all of the years of running the show.
Possibly.
For men's absolute.
We should have just like opened it up and looked, but
we had 4. I know we had 4 years in a row where we technically didn't have an absolute final because there was a closeout or an injury. I think this keeps the streak. I think the only one that we had, and then we had the year where Magali got DQ. Like, we have not had a lot of men's absolute finals recently. We had the year Buchecha gave it to Leandro over injury. Like, this continues the trend for world finals for the men's absolute.
On to the women.
Let's talk about the women's rooster weight. Maisa Bastos defeats Jennifer Aquino 10-0. Holy shit, Bastos is good.
I thought she tapped her.
No, she didn't. It was close at the end, but she wasn't able to get the submission at the end.
Yeah, she played Maisa's game. She played
basically
pass the bottom,
guard, get the
and
back.
Then, like, let's start working, and let's start attacking the back. She's 5-time world champion.
I think they said 5. It's 4 or 5. I think it is 5 now.
She's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you gonna do? Does she permanently move up to light feather?
I mean, she's been bouncing around, but for world
Not
championship as
much,
rooster, she's in an odd situation because this was one-way traffic from Bastos. She was even on the reset. They did a weird IBJJF reset where they were kind of out of bounds and they just started back on the feet, and it was like, that's a weird thing to do. But she immediately again goes to pass, gets the back, and scores more points. I don't really have much more to say about this. It's just, if you've seen a Maisa Bastos match and her win via points on the back in the last 3 or 4 years, this is what it looks like.
Yep.
She's now at AOJ, right?
Yes.
And she's gonna get even better. But yeah, I don't have much more to say. Bastos is still phenomenal at this weight class and pretty much almost untouchable. She will lose occasionally, but not in a world's camp. Moving on to the female light featherweight division, we had Thamira Aquino defeating Amanda Montero via split decision.
This was a lot of Thamira playing on the bottom and Amanda trying to pass, and that was it.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one for scoring for IBJJF for how they do decisions. It was a lot of times in IBJJF, they will prioritize the guard player in like an even match or a close to even match. If you elected to come to the guard and you play from the guard, the IBJJF historically has given it to the guard player in that situation as they were the one playing the guard, and IBJJF has rewarded that. That's moving a little bit now, but I still think this is a match that, that's kind of how you see and can play it. Again, there were some great moments back and forth. It was a split decision, which I don't like to see because that means one judge saw it the other way, which means that there's some level of inconsistency, but that's why they have 3 judges at World Finals.
That's the other thing too. If you watched a lot of matches throughout the week, like, you saw some questionable stuff.
Yeah.
I was watching one match and was also watching the match that was on the mat that was opposite to it, and the referee.
You've moved further and further.
I know. I'm getting more and more comfortable. The referee stops the match for what reason I don't know. Tries to get the corner judge from a different mat to verify something and then just gives the guy a penalty. I was like, what just happened? Like, who is this guy?
At least if you're going to verify, at least verify. At least, like, at least take the time.
Nothing.
I mean, at least take the time to, like,
He kept looking over, and I'm like, do you expect him to look at you? He is, he's watching another match like he's supposed to be doing.
So you've reffed hundreds and hundreds of matches, not for IBJJF, but for other organizations.
I've reffed a lot, and you
get persnickety about bad reffing.
Do, and I mean, rightfully so. I'm also like at fault for yelling at referees for not doing a great job, but it's like sometimes you should shut the fuck up, and I don't know how to do that.
No, but that's why you have a good podcast.
But also, like, if you're a referee, you shouldn't be having conversations with somebody that you see that you know, or walking over and doing something else and ignoring the match that's going on, or trying to argue with somebody when, hey, the organizer says this is how the rules for this division is going, and then you just completely ignore that. And when people are like, you're doing this wrong, and you go, no, it's like, you shouldn't be a ref.
Open up a can of worms here, Josh.
I will go into it. Like,
I know
tons of really bad refs.
Josh. So that was the finals. It was a very close match. But Thamira takes that. Moving on to the featherweight division for the women, we had a final of Natalie Ribeiro versus Anna Rodriguez. This was a clash of heads. There was this match, right? Open. Dude, this was an incidental headbutt, which is they were both playing low in the position. There was a shot that came in. And was it? And I mixed. It was
Rodriguez. Yeah, her eye got split open a little bit,
right above the eyebrow, and she grabs it. And I've had this exact same injury before, and it is immediate. You touch, and then you go, oh, and your hand is covered in blood. Like I have a nice scar right there in the exact position this happened in. Is it this one?
No.
You have one too?
Yeah, but I got hit by a car.
That happens sometimes. And it is such a profusely bloody injury right there in that spot. So they stop the match. They give her the Orlando Sanchez, rest in peace, baby, and they start the match back running.
And it was a lot of like it was fighting from that position, but again the same thing as the previous weight. Not a whole lot was going on.
It was a world tactical match. No one really wants to give up
Nobody wanted
a
to
whole
give up
lot.
anything.
Yeah. And it was even, and so they went to decision, and Natalie Ribeiro wins. I think rightfully so. I think she was the aggressor and doing more. Again, in my head, I'm having a problem as I do more and more ADCC of like not scoring everything like ADCC. In my head, this was a pretty clear decision here. Moving on to the female lightweight division, we had Luisa Montero defeating Brianna St. Marie via toe hold. So I'm going to ask it now. I thought it was Brianna St. Marie for years. And then somebody corrected me and said it was Brianna St. Marie because it's pronounced with it's spelled as the French spelling. She has a French Canadian name, and I hear people call her Brianna St. Marie. So I'm confused now.
I would ask her.
Yeah,
I don't know because
next time I see her, I'm just
gonna
ask her.
Everything is just St. Marie, and it could be wrong. I don't know, but whatever.
This was a fun match. This was even going into the last. It was a sweep and counter sweep game,
and then an immediate Luisa Montero trying to jump on the toe hold, and then Brianna also jumping on the toe hold. A lot of back and forth, and neither of them being able to get back up to get more points.
Yeah,
and that went on for quite a bit up until Luisa was like, "Okay, time to go. Toe hold."
Well, what I thought was interesting, so you saw that. What I saw here I thought was interesting was it seemed like it was even. They knew they were going to go to decision. And it looked like Luisa was in control of the match a little more and was probably on her way to winning that decision. And so what I saw here was Brianna go, okay, I'm probably not going to win this decision, so I need to go for it. And she went, my foot's kind of not in the right position. I'm going to go for this toe hold to try to win the match. And Luisa Montero was in a slightly better position and went, cool, the foot's here. I'm going to go for the toe hold too, and was able to get it. But it seemed like a tactical decision from Brianna, and I thought it was a good tactical decision of like, hey, if you think you're not going to win that decision or you're down, like, yeah, you maybe won't have the best defensive like thought process because, well, if I get submitted, like I'm going to lose anyway, so I might as well go for this in the last 15 seconds of the match because I have nothing to lose. I think from an athlete perspective, that's why Brianna's so good and has like silver medal at ADCC. And here, like, because she's able to make those tactical decisions and adjustments, like, hey, when the chips are down, you go hard on something, even though you might not be in the best defensive place to do it. And that's, again, why I think why Luisa Montero was able to get this toehold here, taking nothing away from the technique of Luisa Montero, but it seemed like a tactical decision that led to that in the last 6 seconds of the match. But it was great. I love seeing finishes in the finals, and Luisa Montero wins the lightweight division for the women. Moving on to the middleweight division, we had Andressa Sintra defeating Larissa Martins via choke from the back. Sintra real good.
Yeah, she's really good.
Real good. I interviewed her a couple of years ago down in, I think it was Houston, one of her Third Coast Grappling.
She just, like, got on the move and got to the back pretty easily, and then just kind of controlled the match from there for a good majority of it.
Good section of the match.
And then it was just like a lot of hand fighting, a lot of moving, a lot of back and forth before finally grabbing that choke and finishing it. So, yeah. I mean,
not a lot really of technical stuff to really break down. She was really
watch
in
her back
the entire
control,
time.
watch what she does with her hands. Like, it was
watch her use her feet too. She does. She actually does do some hip control, some interesting hip control with the feet that I thought was neat. And we even goes to the body triangle. I think once in this match.
Maybe,
or like the half ride, I think maybe is what it was, but after she gets her points. But yeah, it was Andressa Sintra taking another world title handedly. Moving on to the medium heavyweight division, we had Maria what's up, Josh?
Tamara Ferreira defeating Maria Vicentini.
Yep.
0-0 with 4 adds, like, close stuff. Again, another, like, finals match where a majority of them were finishes. So it was like, it was kind of a bummer, like, when it would go to points or decision or ads or anything like that. Again, not taking anything away.
No, the athletes do what they need to do to win in the rule set, and that's, we never try to fault the athletes for what they do to. Like Kynan said, ADCC finals, like, I got to do this my career, man. I got to do what I got to do to win.
Oh,
what's up?
Oh no, that's the next match. Sorry, I was thinking of the next weight.
This was near guard passes, right? I think it was this match.
Yeah.
It was very, very close with Tamara more aggressively attacking the guard, and then when she was on the bottom, I think for one section a near sweep. But that was the entire match. There was no points scored, no positional changes. Great guard work from both, great passing work from both, but nothing of note in positional changes happened. Moving on to the female heavyweight division, we have
Tamira Silva defeating Amanda Magda 2-0. Tamira came up on a sweep, and then the rest of the match was defending leg locks, mostly toe holds from Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda beat Elizabeth Mitrovic via toe hold, and then Larissa Diaz via toe hold to get to the finals, and she was on it.
She was hunting them hard.
But I
think
she was in a good position to get everything, just couldn't finish it out.
She has a really good toe hold game, and that was on display. Look at her Worlds run. I was really happy with how Silva dealt with this, where that she's going to fight the footlock. She collapsed it in. She never let Amanda extend the leg and really be able to get the leverage that she needed. She'd always close it back in, or she managed her distance very well.
She got hit with a penalty near the end, but it was kind of pointless. She could have just sat there the last 30 seconds and would have been fine. But Amanda was really going hard on the feet and against the legs, and Tamira was just savvy to it and just good at defense.
Yeah. Which is really great. Again, I like seeing in a world final match when you have a specialist come in and you see someone that needs, hey man, you got to beat the specialist. Hey, you got to beat Craig Jones. How are you going to do it? It's like, I'm going to take him into this area, or hey, you're going to fight Amanda Magdala. Don't let her toe hold you. How do you do that? We'll do exactly what Tamara Silva did here, and it was, again, a very tactical, great match.
We can actually combine the open weight and the super heavyweight.
It was the same match twice. It
Yep.
was Gabriela Pisana defeating Yara Soares via straight ankle lock, and then
On the same leg,
doing it again.
It took Gabby a little bit longer the first time to
Yeah.
get it, and then the
but
second
not that much longer.
It took like 3 minutes, like close.
Was it
but-
that much longer?
I think so. Yeah.
The first match is 3 minutes. The second match is 26 seconds.
Yeah.
The entire video of the openweight finals match is 36 seconds long.
Yeah.
It is very quick, and it is, and even Jake Watson on commentary goes, she's ruthless with it because she goes in the openweight match.
She
Yara
goes one
Soares'
side
foot
and
is
then-
very taped up. The foot that she got foot locked in the world finals, and then you see Gabby Pisana grab the one leg and then go topside leg and goes over and grabs the injured leg and just ankle locks it. I think that we've seen Gabriela Pisana beat Yara Soares by this a couple of times in a couple of different world majors. I think the last time that Yara Soares has beaten Pisana, last time I looked at their records, was like 21.
A few years ago.
It's been a few years. It's a tough spot for Yara Soares to be in, but Gabriela Pisana takes another world title. Looks pretty unstoppable. Like,
Yeah, I don't know what you do to be like, how do you beat her? She's almost at 10. She's got 8 this year.
well,
Next
they
year,
also count her blue and purple and brown.
No, she's got 8 at black belt.
She's not been a black belt 8 years.
Absolute.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense now. Because they said that on the broadcast, and I was like, I'm so confused.
How
Yeah,
Buchecha has like 12 of them.
right.
I
Yeah.
think she's going to try to beat that record.
I think she can.
I
mean, you're going to
do
need
as
another
well.
generation of folks to come in. Again, Amy
She's gotta
Campbell is
do-
phenomenal. Go back
She's
and
gotta
watch
do
her match with Amy
Worlds,
Campbell.
like 3 more times and do it each time.
You got to
and
double it. Yeah. Look, the higher weight classes are ruled by women named Gabrielle. Good luck, everyone
Gabrielle.
else. Gabrielle, Gabby Garcia, Gabriela Pisana. Like, unless your name is Gabby and you're from Brazil, good luck winning an openweight title at IBJJF.
That's it for Worlds.
Yeah. It was
This-
good. It was a good event. I think this is the most subs that we've had in a Worlds in a couple of years. This was definitely, I think, aside from it being really dark on the broadcast, one of the better finals one of the better broadcasts we've seen in a long time. And I think way less like finals fuckery from the judging and the
Less
reffing than we've
closeouts,
had a
less
long time.
Nonsense.
Yeah, we didn't have a closeout this year, which is great. I think
The
think
money.
the IBJJF is very slowly, glacially moving in the right direction. Maybe it's not.
Maybe.
It's better than it was, and I can
for sure.
appreciate that. Like, we have had some good Worlds last year's Worlds was very good as well, but I think this Worlds was, as far as finishes and technique on display, very good. The entire finals broadcast is about 4.5 hours long. Very digestible. In previous years, it has been much longer. It's been much more spaced out. They've had these breaks in the middle. They had none of that. So they're moving in the right direction, and I can appreciate that as a fan. But yeah, that does it for the IBJJF Worlds 2024. Pretty fun event. Go back and watch the finals. Josh, do you have anything else on the Worlds?
No.
Any other thoughts? All right, let's move into the recap, to the preview. We have Kade Ruotolo fighting. We don't really cover MMA, but when guys that are grapplers, high-level grapplers, make MMA debuts, we try to always highlight it. I have like 1,000 Discord messages. I don't know what's happening. We have Kade Ruotolo making his lightweight MMA debut versus Blake Cooper. So it
Who?
should be super fun. Cade's been itching to do MMA for a while now.
Good for him.
I'm
Let's
excited to see it. He'll be at 170 for 1FC, so I'm excited. It'll be fun. I would be shocked to see Kade lose, but we've seen it from guys making their debut before. I think Kade is built different.
Who knows? I've never seen him get punched in the face.
I've seen him versus Ty
Yeah, that doesn't count.
in the hotel room squabbles. Like,
That doesn't count.
yeah, I'm super excited. Again, I hate losing guys to MMA, but he has been announced for ADCC, so at least we're gonna see him do both for a little bit. But yeah, he makes his MMA debut on June 7th in the same card that Mikey Musumeci takes on Gabriel Sosa. This is a really interesting one because this is Mikey Musumeci's last submission loss. Was in the Who's Number One tournament a couple years ago. Mikey was a smaller guy in the 55 division, and Gabriel Sosa came in, and he's done a great breakdown over this sequence. basically passes Musumeci, gets to in one motion, gets to the north-south choke, and lays down like a really, really nice north-south choke, like a kind of modified head and arm from the top, and chokes Musumeci out. Now, Gabriel Sosa has been looking really, really good since then. Musumeci has really been in 1FC. We've only seen him versus guys in 1FC. We've seen him versus good guys in 1FC, but Gabriel Sosa is larger than Mikey, which we've seen him go up to freaking absolute in the Euros, so we know he can do it. But given that he has that loss, it will be very interesting because we thought when we broke this down the first time it happened in Who's Number One, that the weight was a factor here. So I'm very curious if it will be a factor here.
Mikey's saying he's like 145 right now.
Yeah.
Which I don't know because he's just shredded.
He is absolutely shredded.
He's got to play it smart. He can't eat the pressure as much because the pressure is also combined with speed. Like, yeah, you can do absolutes. Yeah, you can go against guys that are 300-400 pounds. But they're bringing the pressure, not the pressure and the speed.
Yeah, and that's
like
what
Gabriel
Sosa
is
used.
going to be on the move.
Mm-hmm.
So Mikey's got to like work a lot on like, or make sure he's tangling up the legs a lot, and he's got to come up from the bottom. I think. Like I think,
You think he's got to put Sosa on his back?
I think he needs to entangle the legs to look for the back to finish. I don't know if he can finish Gabriel in the legs.
I'm trying to think of the last guy to. I mean,
the last people that we saw him, Mikey has destroyed legs. He
broke a
not
lot
not taking anything away from like Shinya Aoki or anything like that, but Shinya's like
he's older,
40-ish,
and has a lot of miles
got
on
a
him
lot
in
of
both
mileage.
judo and then in
jiu-jitsu,
MMA.
MMA, like the whole shebang. The Sambo guy that he absolutely shredded his legs.
Yeah, we saw him versus Kleber Sosa as well. We've seen him versus Omar Osama. We saw him he was a world champion in Nogi and IBJJF. Like
we've seen him against guys, yeah, but he's stuck in like this microcosm.
Yeah, and that's really
he's in the one world, and there is not. And I love when they put on grappling stuff, but sometimes you're like, who are they going against? Why does this matter?
Yeah, the level is not quite necessarily the level I'd like to see, guys. Yeah, so there's a lot of X factors in this match.
Gabriel's been busy the whole time.
Yeah,
he's definitely competed way more than Mikey in the time since they first met.
Oh, absolutely.
So
not even close. It wouldn't surprise me that Gabriel would have probably 5 times the matches that Mikey would have had in that time.
And Mikey's been training and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's a wizard.
Yeah, there's path. This is interesting to me because there are pathways to victory for both guys. Like Musumeci can do exactly what he's been doing 1FC, break into his legs, and then get in the back and get in the rear naked choke. Like that is really his pathways to victory that we've seen is in his entire championship run in 1FC. But we kind of expected Mikey Musumeci to be a contender in that division, and Gabriel Sosa took him out of that tournament very quickly.
He needs to be more aggressive.
Yeah.
And he's got to be ready to just like put on a pace.
Mm-hmm. I think that Musumeci has an advantage when it goes into the legs versus Gabriel Sosa. But
he's got an advantage in the...
But does Gabriel Sosa let it in the ring too, which is interesting because Mikey kind of has been in there now. He knows how to use it. I think that if he can entangle Gabriel on the cage, he has a really good shot at getting a heel hook.
Is this one in the cage or is it in an actual ring?
Ooh, I think it's cage. I don't know why I think it's cage. Usually they're in a cage. Where are they at? They're in... Ooh, headlined by TIE Fighters.
Probably in a ring then.
Maybe. And Rotang's on it. It's kickboxing. But it's Tatsuran Chai versus Joe Nuet for the title. So that'll be a dope fight.
I want to say it's in the ring. I don't care either way. Like if you're
it's in Bangkok, man, it's probably gonna be a ring.
It's in the ring.
Yeah.
It's in the ring.
This would be a fun
interesting to play it.
I would be surprised to see Mikey lose this. given his record so far in one.
I wouldn't be. That's the thing. Like,
but yeah,
I'm going to
given
tip
Gabriel
the scales
Sosa.
towards Gabriel. I wouldn't be shocked if Mikey won, but I'm just going to go with the person that has the win already and is significantly
Yeah, this is
larger.
a tough one for me because, like, both guys have very clear avenues to victory, and we've seen Gabriel do that. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
I
I'm
always
excited
pick
to
the
watch
champ.
on
In these
Friday.
matches, I always pick the champ, but eventually the champ gets the throne. This very well could be.
And this is what? How many? Is it a month or so out from when Mikey takes on? Is it Kade or Ty?
Was it what?
You know, Mikey's taking on one of the Ruotolo.
Oh
right?
yeah, Kade.
Okay,
that's coming up. I don't know when that's coming up. Has that been announced?
I think so.
They were talking about it. I thought they did it. I forgot. I don't know
I
yet.
think it's like, okay,
It's later.
This is June, July maybe, or September.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's the same month as ADCC.
No, it was the month. I don't remember. It's coming up, but yeah, this will be fun. I don't have a lot more on that really. It's just that's what's happening. Next week we will probably run through pit submission, and we'll talk about EBI that is happening now. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Josh, you got anything fun planned for the week?
Training.
Yeah.
More training.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Yep. I got nothing else going on except for a bunch of work stuff, and then really starting to get things laid out to figure out stuff for Vegas for ADCC. Is really we're close enough now. We got to figure out. We may have a trip planned before that to do some filming work. That'll be fun. But yeah, we're just basically getting everything lined up to be able to go to Vegas and get everyone ready. Like, okay, who's gonna do the podcast what days, and like who's gonna not do the podcast certain days, and potentially bring on some.
Will the
some friends to the show.
podcast miss a week? That hasn't happened since Christmas of 2017.
17? Yeah, that's the only show that we ever bumped. It was like the fourth show we did or something like that, third show or something like that. And we're like, it's Christmas, we'll miss a week. And then we just haven't ever done that again. We figured out, at that point, we figured out the show was a regular thing every week. And it was like, apparently this is what we're going to do every week.
We couldn't do it virtually because
I didn't have any of the gear.
We didn't have any of the gear, and I was in Florida.
Yeah, you were gone. It was, and there was no other people on the team. That it was just you and me,
just
being in the spare bedroom.
In your room.
Yeah, how times have changed, Josh.
Yes.
Many years. So yeah, that's it. As always in the show, I'm your host Maine, my co-host
Josh,
and we have the Grappling Ground. See that, whatever it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.